Good morning to you, Mr. Javid. Obviously, we saw you at the news conference yesterday. I just want to play this World Health Organization grab for you and our viewers, and then we'll talk about it. Here we go.
Our recommendation is for isolation of cases, isolation and clinical care of cases to continue because our goal is to prevent onward spread and also the quarantining of contacts. We support countries in reducing that time. I don't say abandon it, but reducing that time.
We're not doing that. We're deciding to get rid of it altogether.
No, not quite. So what we said yesterday was it marked a new chapter in our fight against the pandemic, where we are returning to Plan A. So that's what we're doing, and that's because Plan B has worked. The data shows that Omicron is now in retreat, and it's worked for a number of reasons, but mainly because it bought us the time that we wanted to build our defences. And the best way we did that across the country, where some 15 million people came forward to get boosted, and I want to thank each and every one of them for what they have done to help us fight this pandemic, and also all the NHS workers, the volunteers, and what they did. And it's because of that that we're now able to remove some of the rules and restrictions by returning to Plan A. So it means that, for example, that we're no longer encouraging people to work from home. From Thursday next week, there'll be no mandatory use of the NHS COVID pass or the use of face coverings. But, and turning to that particular message that we just heard, we do still need to, of course, remain cautious. Prevalence is still high, so we'd continue to recommend caution. Some rules still stay in place, including the rule to self-isolate if you are positive.
March? What happens after March?
Well, we will. We're not there yet. That's a few weeks away.
So we're not scrapping the isolation altogether?
We will. What the Prime Minister said yesterday is that all these rules, and as I've said a number of times, they remain under review.
I'm confused. Are we scrapping isolation altogether by the end of March or not?
We will decide as we get closer to March, based on the data at the time. All the decisions that we've made from the start of this pandemic have been based on the data. And that's what you heard yesterday, because Omicron is in retreat, because our plan has worked. But as I say, there is still, because of the continued need for caution, there's something that everyone can still do if they haven't yet done it, which is to get vaccinated.
By the end of March or not?
We said we would review those rules, and we would like to see it scrapped by the end of March, but that decision will be made closer to the time.
OK. In the press conference yesterday, you compared COVID to flu. Did you really mean to do that?
Yes.
Why?
Because it was an example of how we need to learn to live with COVID.
151,000 people have died of COVID.
We have the impact of COVID, of course, has been the biggest challenge this country has seen since the Second World War. 150,000 people, as you say, more than that, now have died with being positive of COVID. And during that time, we have, at a great cost to us, to many countries, we've seen, very sadly, thousands and thousands of deaths, but we have learned a lot about COVID.
Why is it, given those figures that we both agree on, why is it appropriate to compare it to flu?
Because we need to learn to live with it. Sadly, people die of flu as well. In a bad flu year, you can sadly lose about 20,000 lives. But we don't shut down our entire country and put in place lots of restrictions to deal with it. We need to continue with our lives with sensible, appropriate and proportionate measures. The one thing we learned about flu, because it's been around for far, far, far longer, is that we have annual vaccinations for older people in particular, for children as well. We have good advice. We may well have some kind of annual vaccination. I think that's where we'll probably end up, but it's really difficult for anyone to say exactly what the longer term where we will be. But one thing I did also say yesterday is COVID is not going away.
No,
it's going to be with us for many, many years, perhaps forever. And we have to learn to live with it. And what we have shown, mainly because of the vaccines, but also because of the new treatments that we have, the antivirals. We've got more antivirals per head than any other country in Europe. The testing infrastructure that we've built, the biggest testing infrastructure, it is these things that will allow us to live with COVID.
Absolutely, Minister. But those people then who were ridiculed for comparing COVID to the flu, they shouldn't have been ridiculed.
Well, I don't. Did you ridicule them? I've never ridiculed them.
Oh, OK, so several people did, shall we say.
Well,
so you think that that was inappropriate to ridicule people who
well, look, I think
with the flu?
I think if at the start of COVID, when we had no vaccines, we had no testing infrastructure, we had no treatments, people were comparing it to flu, that would have been wrong. Of course it would have been wrong. But look where we are today, 2 years on, especially here in the UK, the most boosted country in Europe, the most antivirals per head in Europe, the biggest testing infrastructure in Europe. It is why we are the most open country in Europe. I think we are leading Europe in the transition from pandemic to endemic, and we're leading the way in showing the world how you can live with COVID.
Okay. Let's talk about what happened in the House of Commons yesterday, an image of Christian Wakeford crossing the chamber, defecting, in other words. Well, is this going to help or hinder the Prime Minister?
Well, look, I don't see it that way. I was sad to see. I was sad to see Christian go. It's never good. It's never good for any political party to see one of your own leave and defect in that way. Of course, it's not good news, but it's a decision for him. But I feel sorry for the people of Bury South. They voted.
Should there be a by-election?
They voted Conservative. I think a by-election would be welcome. You know, the people of.
Should there be one?
Yeah, I'd be very happy with a by-election. I think Christian should be happy with a by-election. I think he supported by-elections in these circumstances in the past. And I think, given that the people of Bury South rightly voted Conservative in 2019, they wanted to get Brexit done, they want to see a strong economy and all of that. Now they've got an MP that's changed his affiliation without their permission. Why not give them a say?
So that's the younger intake. What about those that have been there for almost longer than God, in the form of David Davis? Let's remind our viewers what he said yesterday.
I'll remind him of a quotation altogether too familiar to him of Leo Amery to Neville Chamberlain. You have sat there too long for all the good you have done. In the name of God, go.
What sort of blows that?
Well, look, I've known David Davis for many years. I've got huge respect for him. We don't always agree on everything, and that is one thing I don't agree with him on.
How damaging is it when an elder statesman who's been there since Margaret Thatcher's days stands up and says, in the name of God, go?
It is damaging. Of course it is. You know, if you said to me, would I rather that he didn't get up, or an elder statesman didn't get up and say something like that, of course I wouldn't want to see that. He's a decision that he's made. The Prime Minister has come to the House of Commons. Last week, he's set out and apologised, set out what has happened. But most importantly, I think, is that he's asked for this investigation to be done, for the time and space to be given for it to be completed, and the facts to be established. And once those facts are established, the Prime Minister will come very quickly back to Parliament and submit himself to scrutiny. So David Davis or anyone else, any other member of Parliament, can ask him whatever question they want.
The other thing he could do is go for a vote of confidence now, so it won't be that death by 1,000 cuts, which David Davis has talked about. He can limp on potentially until the end of the year or party conference or whatever. But if he's so confident, why doesn't he go for that vote of confidence right now?
Well, I think the Prime Minister set out clearly that after having rightly come to the House and apologised, that the next step should be for the facts to be established. I mean, I think everyone would be interested in the facts, and that is what Sue Gray... Yeah, right, and that's what
10 minutes in and you mentioned Sue Gray.
That is what the work that she is doing. She should be given the time and space. It's her investigation. No minister should sort of determine how quickly she does it, or who she speaks to or who she doesn't speak to. That's a decision for her. But once the facts are established, then I think we can see how Parliament will respond.
Does he have your complete support?
He has my support.
Does he have your complete support?
Yes, he has my complete support. I serve in his cabinet.
OK. If a serving Prime Minister, if a serving Prime Minister breaks the law, does he have to step down?
Well, I don't want to talk about a hypothetical situation.
Why is it hypothetical?
Because, are you asking me about this current Prime Minister?
No, I'm saying, does a serving Prime Minister, if he breaks the law, have to step down?
Well, as a general point, the ministerial code is very clear. If any minister, from the Prime Minister down, breaks the law, of course they shouldn't continue to serve as a minister.
If this Prime Minister has broken the law, should he step down?
What I've just said is a general rule that applies to everyone. There's no exceptions to that rule.
So if this Prime Minister, just to be clear, if this Prime Minister has broken the law, he should step down?
Well, look, you're very cleverly trying to get me into a hypothetical situation.
I knew you'd say that, so I actually looked up hypothetical and what it means. An idea or explanation of something that is based on a few known facts, but that has not yet been proved to be true or correct. We've got a lot of facts that we can look at as far as this Prime Minister is concerned, including photographic evidence of what he got up to, including him admitting that he broke the rules, albeit inadvertently. Ignorance is no defence in the law.
We don't have the full facts yet.
He says that he was there, but he didn't know. He broke the rules, but he didn't know he was breaking the rules. That's no defence in law.
Look, we don't have the full facts. And let me just say this as well, that I completely understand why millions and millions of people across the country, from what they have seen already, whether it's on the TV or in their newspapers or wherever they've seen it, why they are so angered and pained. I completely understand that, and I share that anger and pain. I really do.
You've lived it yourself, I know.
I've lived it myself, and
you couldn't see it.
I'm sure we all have, and some of us in the most difficult of circumstances. If I think about my constituents that couldn't go to hospital to see dying relatives, this is a very, very serious situation, and that is why I do think that the facts need to be established and put out there, and then people can come to a judgment.
I get that. But, we saw the Prime Minister with his hangdog expression earlier on in the week saying that he was sorry, but he didn't understand the rules had been broken. I put it to you that it doesn't matter, because that is no defence in law. And if a Prime Minister has broken the law, you've said he should go.
Well, as I say, the ministerial code applies to all of us, and it's right, the code, what it says and how you should conduct yourself. But in terms of...
Ergo, this Prime Minister should go.
But in terms of this situation, we need to establish the facts. And as I say, the Prime Minister's come forward, he's apologised, he's accepted that mistakes have happened, he's taken full responsibility and has said he will take full responsibility for whatever the Sue Gray report comes out with. But the facts need to be established first.
He's even admitted himself. He doesn't need Sue Gray to tell him. He's admitted himself that he broke the rules.
But we don't have the full facts, and
he
that
said it.
that is the purpose of the report.
He's admitted to it. He's pleaded guilty.
The report, I think, is going to be absolutely crucial in this. It's being done with someone with the utmost integrity and respect, an independent civil servant. And once that report is published, I think that whether it's you, your viewers, parliamentarians, can react to it at that time.
OK, let me ask it this way then. If Sue Gray decides that the Prime Minister misled the House, should he step down?
That's a hypothetical situation again.
Do we need to go through hypothetical again? Because it's not hypothetical
I'm not going to
all.
opine on what she may or may not decide. By the way, I think that would be inappropriate for any minister, because this is an independent report.
What would be inappropriate?
Inappropriate to try and sort of guess what may or may not be the outcome of the report.
The Prime Minister's already admitted that he broke the rules. We've seen photographic evidence of him breaking the rules. We've heard about parties at Downing Street on the eve of the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral, which is quite frankly despicable. All the evidence is building up, and yet you're still saying, let's wait for the report. The Prime Minister himself has admitted. Look,
we don't know. Look,
take
the party that took place on the eve of the funeral, and it's completely unacceptable. Two parties, and who knows? Two parties. I'm sure that's what's been, because that's been reported, and the people involved have apologised. That's what happened. Completely unacceptable. Wrong in every way. There's no excuse for that at all. Should people be disciplined and reprimanded for that? Of course they should be. But what happens next, we should wait for the report, and for Sue to be able to speak to people that may have gone to the party, may have known about the party, may have any information they can shine on it. Let her put that together and present that information to the British public and to the Parliament, and then we can make a judgment.
So we're very cross about those parties, but we won't acknowledge that the Prime Minister broke the rules at another event. Why are we cherry-picking which events that we agree with and which we don't?
I don't think we are cherry-picking. This report can go anywhere. Sue can look at anything. So we're talking about things that we know or have heard about because they've been reported.
Sure.
But the purpose of this report is to have an independent investigation where all the information is provided. She can speak to whoever she wants and establish that.
Yeah, you are in the runners and riders. Let's have a quick look just before I let you go. We're out of time, but your name has been put forward as one of those who has got a very distinct chance of running as the next Prime Minister of this country. What do you think of that?
What I think is that there is no leadership election, and this is all.
There you
this
are.
is all
there
lots of speculation.
It's a good picture of you.
You like the picture, do you?
I do,
It's not bad, actually.
Yeah, it's almost prime ministerial, some might say.
Well, they all look, look at that. There's a good lineup of talent, I would say, in the party there. And but there is no leadership election. We've got a prime minister. He's getting on with the job, and that's what matters.
And when there is, you might fancy it?
There is no leadership election.
Good to talk to you as always.
Thank you
Thank you very much indeed for joining us.